The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
First of all, Casey, you don't get to run your mouth right before we start. And then, I have no time. It's that awkward amount of time between, when you point to tell me to start talking and the intro ending, and then he's just over here taking shots at the Browns, just for no reason. He hasn't said a damn word all morning.
That was awesome.
Very quiet. And then he went Jimmy from the top rope.
That's true.
When Jimmy attacked Elliott, unprovoked yesterday. I feel bad for Elliott.
I like having Casey loose in the morning. That's good. This is going to be a good show.
I had to call Elliott to check on him to make sure his mental health was okay last night. It was rough.
It was rough. It was rough, for sure.
Let's dial it back today. Okay,
I'll dial it back.
Be nice. Be nice. I won't mention the Detroit Tigers today. I'm not mentioning them.
Exactly.
But they didn't play last night.
Well, I know.
Don't doubt Elliott.
Yeah. But it'd be a little mean if you brought him up when they didn't even play.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
There is a particular passion of his that I feel like you're going to dunk on today. So, the old kickball.
That's right.
The old kickball.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try to be as serious as I can about it.
Because why?
Because it's a very serious sports talk show.
And what is this show?
What is the
bench.
show?
Off the bench.
Oh, I didn't know what game we were playing there. I thought we were going to do a grip it and rip it bit.
Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We welcome you in, and a very traditional open to a show.
Of course.
Just all over the place, and that's what we are here. But no, we welcome you in again. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers here again on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and then of course airing on 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Got a couple guests lined up today. We're going to talk about college basketball with ESPN's Mark Adams. Pretty excited to talk with him again. He calls many games for the Big 12, your Cincinnati Bearcats, of course, and the American Conference back in the day. He's a big Wichita State guy, so we're going to talk a little college basketball with him, especially with the ever-changing world of college athletics and with the transfer portal and NIL. I know he's been very outspoken about just the how it's totally changed the landscape. So we'll get to that with him. We'll even talk about Casey's Bengals. And your Bengals, and your Bengals, and your Bengals, and everyone's Bengals. We're going to talk about everyone's team today to make y'all happy. I need to make y'all happy, right?
That's the goal, right?
Yeah,
you make us happy.
That is the goal, to make you guys happy.
We let you host the show.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I guess we will tough it out. We will talk some Bengals coming up later on with Jay Morrison from Pro Football Network. It's been a little quiet in Bengals country. That's a good thing, especially at this time of year.
Yeah.
Obviously the T. Higgins contract when, he was able to sign the tender or whatever. I don't think it's a surprise that he signed it. Obviously, it was the timing of which he did it and what provoked that and what is that setting up. We'll get to that with Jay Morrison coming up because now what's next on the horizon for the Bengals is that Jamar Chase contract. And should that be a simple, smooth process? We'll talk about all of that with Jay coming up. Also, because the Brown family, very rich, very loaded.
Very loaded.
And it sounds like, and I'm very excited for this, every NFL team might have to pay in the sum of $400 million because of this lawsuit with the Sunday ticket thing.
Oh yeah,
what the hell is happening? I know nothing about that. That's why Jay's going to come on and help us.
Let's not get off wide receiver contract disputes quite yet.
You may not be able to afford Jamar Chase.
What's going on in Cleveland with Amari Cooper?
Don't worry about that.
He's still not reporting yet.
To be fair, have they ever won because of their wide receivers as of late anyways?
Have they ever won because of anything?
Yeah, have they ever won?
Damn it. You ever start talking? I'm like, no. That's exactly what just happened there. But just worry about yourself. Worry about your team, which is what we're doing, talking Bengals
right.
to make you guys happy today. But no, so we got a lot to get into. We'll have, again, Mark Adams, ESPN, coming up around the corner. Jay Morrison later on in the program to talk Bengals. But the Reds, coming off that off day, back, and by the way, see, this is the second day I'm hosting this show. Didn't even introduce anybody. Obviously, I'm Justin Kinner, running this thing right now, for at least for the time being, until these guys chase me off. But we got from the top rope, Jimmy over here, who just absolutely physically assaulted our guy Elliott yesterday. I mean, it was just brutal. I've never seen anything like it. But Jimmy, how are you today? You look a little more chipper than you did yesterday.
Well, I moved the seat up a little bit.
That's good.
I raised
That's what it was? It was the seat height this whole time?
No, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I put my Pistons hat on this morning, so I feel comfortable wearing that now. During last season, I stopped wearing it after probably like the 5th game.
There's something about competing for the play-in that just gives you that pride.
No, they're not competing for the play-in.
Then what are you happy about?
They'll win more than 14 games. That's good.
Like 18?
Hey, kudos
I've
to
never
Jimmy.
related to another sports fan
Yeah.
more as a Browns fan than what he just did right there, being a Pistons fan. But
I'm also a Lions fan. So.
well, there you go. That's not bad. Go Lions. Yeah. Go Lions. Go Jared Goff. All right, we got Mr. Casey McAllister. Casey McAllister, good morning.
It's going.
You seem a little down today. Did Jimmy beat you up too?
No, I'm not down today. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to talk Bengals, ready to talk some Reds, ready to talk some U.S. men's national team. I'm sure we'll cover that.
That
quite a bit.
yeah.
That would be the first thing.
Yeah. Elliot.
That would be why he's down.
That's honestly why I'm a little down, because it
Would
was
you expect a
it was
different outcome?
absolutely horrendous yesterday. Horrendous.
So that's one of those, and we'll get into that. But yes, like that, all over the Twitter feed, all over the Twitter sphere or the X sphere, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But about the U.S. men's national team. So we'll get to that coming up around the corner. Elliot Rearing, everybody. Elliot, good morning. How are you?
Wow, it's a great morning. Good to see you.
Recovering well, I see.
I am recovering well. I got
Put some
through it.
makeup on to cover that black eye that
That's
you
right.
got.
Talked to my therapist, had a long 4-hour talk, and we got through it. But that's okay. We're here now. We're ready to roll. When I went home last night and I was checking the TV guide. It was around 9 p.m. I was like, "What can I watch? What could I watch?" And they're like, "There's the soccer game on." I'm like, "Yeah." So I just kept scrolling for something else to watch, and I couldn't find anything. So I elected to go take a walk. That's how I watched the soccer game last night.
Yeah, no, there was absolutely nothing on TV last night. I think you'll find out in the headlines there was, 3 baseball games?
Three
Three
baseball
baseball
games.
Uno, dos, tres.
Not two
And
of them.
that's Spanish.
Look at you with that Alabama education. Did you take a foreign language in Alabama?
Come on, no way.
What
not,
did you-
not even close.
You don't take twang? Like you don't like that's not what you do at Alabama?
No, I
Like,
went down for 4 years, came back, no accent.
this is my
so I
girlfriend
consider that a win.
/ sister, that type of thing. Like,
Hey, let's watch it.
it's like
Let's watch it.
it's, Jacob Tissett, everybody.
I'm happy to be here. It's a nice day. It's a nice day.
Oh, look, my alarm's going off right in the middle of the show.
Oh, that's
Rookie
good.
mistake.
Keep it
Rookie
professional.
mistake. Yeah, absolutely. But no, that's the panel, everybody.
That is.
So-
What a beautiful morning.
It is. All right, Reds action today, because that's why you woke up. I think that's why everyone's in bad moods today. I walked in and it's just quiet. I wanted to ask who died, but in case someone did die, I didn't actually want to ask that. That would be
play.
awkward. Has that ever happened? I've walked into a room before and said, "Oh, who died?" And then they're like, "Dude, like that's
Oh,
Jeff."
no. Jeff from accounting. Jeff from accounting.
You can
Wake
never
up this
count on
morning.
him. I tell you, it's
That would be awkward. That would actually be like one of my worst nightmares.
man.
No accounting department here, thank God, though. Here we go.
No accountability right
That's
now.
right.
So we've been trying to get
too.
to Reds, and I'm just, all over the place. But no, okay, let's dive into it. Reds, Yankees, you guys touched on this last week. Reds have been, like, one of the odd things about them is just how dominant they've been in game ones, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And their pitching has been the most consistent thing, so it's not like there's a great pitching stat to kind of show how dominant they've been throughout game ones as of late. But it's just been like that's the one, like, it's wild. So you see where they're at. They're, 3.5, 4.5 out of the wild card, okay? And we know their offensive woes, but they're like the only team that's not in the wild card picture right now, or the team that's in the wild card picture that's not actually in a wild card spot. They have a plus run differential. They're the only team that's in that particular spot. And it's because of these game ones. They're horrible offensively. How do they have a positive run differential? And it's because they usually kick some team's ass in game one and they put up a ton of runs, and then it kind of evens out by not scoring runs the rest of the series. But a big one tonight, Reds, Yankees. We talked about it yesterday. Everyone's looking ahead to that home stretch where you got 7 straight. You got the Tigers, you got the Marlins, you got the Rockies, you got some bad teams coming up for them to kind of build up some momentum heading in to the All-Star break. And there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. I had a chance to catch Tom Brenneman's show on the way home yesterday, and it was, he was kind of talking about this as well, as that basically this month will determine kind of the outlook for this team the rest of the way. You have a bad July. It doesn't matter what you do in August and September. I think the morale of this team is completely going to be shot, because it doesn't matter what you do in these upcoming months, because what happens in these next couple of weeks is going to determine what they do at the end of the month with this trade deadline. So I don't want to do this whole lame, this Yankees, it's a must-win series, but we are at the point now where we can't sit here and continue to say, and I know you guys have done this before, where, well, just don't get swept. at a certain point, it went from, well, just don't get swept to, well, you can't just keep losing series either. And then you're on the road at the Yankees. It's the big bad Yankees, right? Like the aura of the Yankees. It is one of those things where can we realistically expect them to go to New York and take 2 or 3 from the Yankees? I mean, I don't know what the realistic expectation is here, but the bottom line is they have 7 very winnable games against 3 very bad teams with 3 series coming up heading into the All-Star break. But if they have a horrendous outing against this Yankees team over the next 3 games and they don't take any momentum into that 7-game stretch, it's going to be very tough for the fans to buy in. I think that fan morale is what's on the line, especially over the next 10 games right now. The final 10 games heading into the All-Star break or whatever it is, it's more than 10, but you know what I mean. This stretch, fan morale on the line. Elliot, we'll start with you. Looking at this Yankees series, I mean, obviously we could do the whole, well, I want him to score. I want him to continue pitching well, but like, this Yankees series, I have no clue how to perceive this. It is weird seeing them play the Yankees so commonly now, which is cool. But like, I don't know how to feel the Yankees series. It's always just been, it's cool to play the Yankees. I don't really care what happens. I do care what happens in this series because it sets the stage for a very important 3-series stretch heading into the All-Star break.
The mantra where you can't get swept, it only plays for so long. The Reds have won 4 series in their last 19. So the just hold serve, it's not really working. They're in it, technically, mathematically. By all means, they're still alive. The season isn't over. But at the same time, it's just slowly draining. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts is what you're seeing with this Reds season as it unfolds. This Yankee series, it's not a must-win. It's not a can't lose. It's a will lose. They will lose this series. I have no doubt in my mind that will happen. And it's just because the Yankees are a far better team. And when the Reds play far better teams outside of the Dodgers, they usually lose.
Phillies.
The Phillies early on. I'll give the Phillies.
Maybe we win the series.
The Phillies and the Dodgers. But yeah, the winning the first game of the series thing is weird to me. I've never seen a team be unable to close as frequently as the Reds are. But that's it. And when you're playing a guy like Aaron Judge, who's hitting, I think, Jonathan India is probably the hottest player in the National League. If you go over to the American League, Aaron Judge is hitting 480, 567, 880 over his last 7 games, has 3 home runs. He has 14 home runs in his last 30 games. If I was the Reds pitching staff, I don't throw to him. I don't throw one pitch to him at all this series. Why let him beat you? Why let Aaron Judge beat you? Now, is it realistic to expect that? Obviously not. But in my head right now, I'm thinking if we're going to lose this series, it's going to be in large part because of Aaron Judge.
And we love losing games 2-0, 1-0.
Correct.
So a solo shot from Aaron Judge will probably end the game.
Correct. So to answer your initial question, what are my vibes going into it? It's the same it's been for the last couple of weeks now, where it's been just try to hold serve, tread water until something else happens, and that something else will be that 10-game stretch that you alluded to immediately following this series. So don't get swept. Win 1 game in New York, and we'll move on, and we'll just try to forget about it. I don't expect anything from this series, especially when you have Graham Ashcraft and Frankie Montas as 2 of the 3 starters. And that's with all due love and respect, but those are not the top half of the rotation.
So I'm going to bring a little positivity to this real quick. Because you look at the Yankees right now, they're 54-32. Right? They're one of the top best records in baseball, right? But they're not one of the best teams playing-wise right now. They're not playing well.
They're playing
right
crap.
now. They've lost to some bad teams as of late, okay? Now, some of these teams I mentioned are really, really good, so don't get me wrong. But again, obviously you look at that Mets series going to New York. They had to travel all the way to New York, all right, to play the Mets. But they lose 12-2 and 9-7 there, okay? Then they drop 2 or 3 against the bad Blue Jays, okay? They drop 2 or 3 there as far as that's concerned. I mean, they've lost 7 of their last 10. They're not playing good baseball either. Jake, if you don't mind, what's the pitching matchups for I know Graham Ashcraft's tonight. Do you guys have what the pitching matchups are?
Yep, it's Ashcraft and Luis Gil tonight, Abbott and Carlos Rodon the next day, and then Montas, Marcus Stroman on the 4th of July.
So you're not so obviously Ashcraft is that's the one that everyone's nervous about.
Luis Gil is the odds-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year right now. His ERA is 3.15 on the year, and that's just because he gave up 5 and 7 in his last 2 starts. So you take those 2 out, his ERA is hovering around 2, sub 2.
Last 2, so he's struggling. Last 2, so he's struggling heading into
What
this.
a better get-back game than this Reds lineup.
That's true.
Did you guys not get hugged as children? What is wrong with you guys? Why are y'all so damn negative?
I've gotten excited about this team after winning a game, winning 2 games so many times this year, and they just ripped my heart out.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing it this time. We're gonna get swept by the Yankees, and I'll stay out.
Reds are taking 2 or 3 from this damn thing. They're taking 2 or 3.
I agree with you, Kenner.
Thank
I'm going to
you,
be the only
Casey.
positive Reds fan in this room. I think that
What's led you to believe that?
Yeah.
What has led me to believe that? Well,
Well, they'll take one of 3.
They obviously
one
first.
they hold the tiebreaker over the Dodgers and the Phillies. So
Okay.
yeah,
Look,
simple as that.
If they do continue that trend of winning these game ones, right? They win tonight with Graham Ashcraft on the mound. Graham Ashcraft is who I'm terrified about. Abbott on the mound, big Abbott fan. I think Abbott.
Yeah.
And Rodon has stunk.
So, like, Abbott's the one that I think that if they can get a win, like, losing tonight obviously is very possible, especially with the way Graham Ashcraft has pitched. Never seen the guy. This is why when guys get super high and guys who have a couple good seasons early in their careers, I still try not to buy in too much because Graham Ashcraft was really, really good to start. Andrew Abbott, the same way we're in love with Andrew Abbott, that was the way we felt about Graham Ashcraft early on, and he's kind of fallen off. But, man, I can't think of a better way to kind of get things rolling again than to have a great outing on the road against the New York Yankees, set the tone for this series, setting up Andrew Abbott heading into Game 2, and then maybe going for the big old sweep coming up around the corner. So, look, it's easy to pick against the Reds right now, especially when they're going up against New York. And the Reds, we're talking about them as if they are just a horrendous baseball team. They have just enough to be dangerous, and just enough to be dangerous. The best thing you need to win on the road is pitching. They at least have that. They're going to go into it's a not a tough environment. What would you say the environment is with the Yankees? An intimidating environment because
I would
it's
say
the Yankees?
I would say it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially for a young team.
Definitely.
For that fan with that fan base and everything, and the storied Yankees, yeah, absolutely it is.
It's no Detroit, right, Jimmy?
No, it is definitely no Detroit.
But, baby steps. They're getting there.
Yeah.
They're getting there. But we got Reds, we got Yankees coming up later on tonight. We are Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball, 1410 Wing AM, that is, of course. But this is Off the Bench presented by American Dairy Farmers. Again, we're live, excited to be with you here today. We'll step away for a few moments. We do have Elliot's headlines coming up around the corner, and then ESPN's Mark Adams will hop on and we'll talk a little college basketball with him. Don't go anywhere. All right, and we are back off the bench here on Chatterbox Sports. I'm Justin Kinner. We've got Jimmy, we got Casey, we got Elliot, we got Jacob. Jacob, the famous one half of Grip It and Rip It from back in the day. The famous Grip It and Rip It. I mean, Mike never had a bad show.
Never.
Never had a good show. But you never had a bad show.
That's good. We'll
So,
take that.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, I thought there was handles right here. So
Oh, they're up. They're up behind.
They're
you.
up behind.
There
There
we
you
go.
go. There you go.
Now you're
doing
locked and
this
loaded.
weird like dancing move, and I'm like, where the hell is this the arm bar? But there we go. Looks like you need to vet the super chats, Casey, just so I don't, I have a habit of just reading right away without like actually like making sure that they're safe. Is this one safe? Yeah, it's safe. Okay. If we DH Santiago Espinal against the Yankees, will the league intervene?
They should.
Shout out to
should.
Ned Flanders, by the way.
Very great character.
Very great character. Who's the great character?
Ned Flanders.
Who's Ned Flanders? Uh-oh.
Is this a bit?
This has to be a bit.
Who's
You're a
Ned
bit-
Flanders?
Is this the best bit of all time?
Let me ask you this: is it a bit?
Let's be a little bit real right now.
Movie character, TV character, cartoon?
I don't think we can do this.
I don't know if I'm ready to do
I think
it.
the show has to end.
It's far too early to do it.
I mean,
Oh,
this is
damn, I'm
crazy.
not even going to make it a whole day and a half?
It's 10:20 in the morning. You're asking.
Why
me
are
that.
you doing this?
I mean, what is this game?
Just
Ned-
get to it.
Ned Flanders. Who is it?
I don't know who Ned Flanders is.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Then nobody's allowed to tell him. Nobody's
yeah,
allowed to
nobody.
tell him.
Oh, that's why we have this thing.
No.
no.
Nobody's allowed to tell him.
No one's going to tell me, but let's type in the old Ned Flanders. Oh, Jesus. Okay, that makes sense.
Never seen The Simpsons, huh?
I mean, I'm not a cartoon guy,
I guess. Simpsons.
Simpsons
listen.
just predicts the future. If
Yeah.
you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, just watch The Simpsons.
All right, well, shout out to Simpsons character Ned Flanders for the super chat. As far as I that was really dumb. I just said Ned Flanders like it was just any old Ned.
That's
yeah.
true.
All right, let's get to it, shall we? Elliot with the headlines.
Elliot loves three things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
Headlines. By the way, no sports yesterday. When I say zero sports, there were zero sporting events that took place. When I say 0, I mean there were 4. But I'll read them nonetheless. No news on the Reds front, but on this date in 2013, Homer Bailey threw his first no-hitter of the season, beating the Giants 3-0. Shout out to Clay Snowden for that nugget. Jonathan India was named National League Player of the Week yesterday. Tonight, the Reds return Graham Ashcraft, as we've already mentioned. 5.45 ERA, 52 strikeouts, 1.49 WHIP. Luis Gil, 9-3, 3.15 ERA, 99 strikeouts, and a 1.12 WHIP.
And a God bless me tattoo across his neck.
Really?
Yeah, right here. God bless me.
How about that?
No regrets.
Around the league, Astros, they win 3-1 over the Blue Jays. Hunter Brown tossed 6 innings of 2-hit shutout baseball, 5 strikeouts as well. Yordon Alvarez hit a 2-run shot, which pretty much was the difference. Mets and Nationals went to extras yesterday. The Mets got the win, 9-7 in 10 innings. A pair of home runs gave them a 9-3 lead, and it was big enough to hold on. The Rockies, they defeat the Brewers 8-7 in 10 innings. William Contreras and Willy Adames each had 3 hits for the Brewers, was not enough. Brenton Doyle had 3 hits for the Rockies, as well as 3 RBIs and 2 home runs. That was it for baseball. There was 3 games yesterday. NBA news, Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers have agreed to a max extension through the 2028 season worth $150 million. I've seen the numbers from the rest of these guys. I feel like that's less than I would have thought. But
Max contract.
it is a max contract, so who knows. Jason Tatum is receiving 5 years, $314 million, which is, of course, the largest contract in NBA history. Jason Tatum.
$1 billion starting lineup.
$1 billion starting 5 for the Boston Celtics. Klay Thompson joins the Mavericks on a 3-year, $50 million deal. LeBron was unable to secure the deal. To the Mavericks he goes. And finally, we have soccer.
Oh, kickball.
The United States men's national team, they fell to Uruguay 1-0. Christian Pulisic blasted officiating after the loss. It appeared as if he was taunting the official, Kevin Ortega, to go celebrate with Uruguay. And then after the game, he tried to shake his hand, but, quote, yeah, he wouldn't shake my hand, but I guess it's normal.
1-0. Classic footy.
1-0. It's the
1-0?
most exciting sport in the world.
You're not using the right jargon.
I won't.
What is it? What is it supposed to? Not 1-0.
1-0.
1-0. Come on, guys.
I mean, come on. What are we doing?
1-0. That is all of your sports headlines as of yesterday. I haven't checked in if Rothstein tweeted out who's playing who in a road match, but
game.
yeah, standalone game in early November. But maybe.
Are you going to let him just pass right on by
No.
your soccer headlines like
Yeah,
that?
no. I think the most frustrating part about last night is that
What happened last night? You got to set the what
there's a
happened
ton
last
that
night?
happened
Yeah,
last
like
night.
But-
energy, excitement. Like, let's go. This was the biggest topic in sports yesterday.
It was.
Biggest
Right?
loss
was.
is Trinidad and
It was.
Tobago.
Before we talk about everything that happened in the game, I think the most frustrating part is that this tournament in the Copa America was supposed to be a step forward for the men's national team, because in the last World Cup, they had a decent showing. They made it out of the group stage. They made the knockout round. Yes, they lost to the Netherlands, but that was a very good Netherlands team who made it very far. But going into this Copa America, you're supposed to be one of the more dominant teams. You're supposed to make it far to prove that you're ready to host the World Cup, to perform in the World Cup that you're hosting in your country. And they get bounced in the group stage, so now all of that is seemingly gone. Your manager, Greg Berhalter, is hopefully going to be sacked, but we'll figure it. I'm not sure. I think the game itself, I think Casey has a lot to talk about the game itself, but that's just looking everything outside of the game. I think there's a huge problem with the U.S. men's national team right now.
Jimmy
Yeah.
calling for a coach's job right off the bat.
Jimmy
From the
does not
top row.
care about families.
Yeah. You know, you just call it. Back-to-back days where Jimmy is just obliterating
It's
people.
crazy.
I mean, poor
Thought he was a
Elliott,
nice guy.
Now the coach. I mean, come on.
I do kind of have the same sentiment with Jimmy that this was the time to show that they're ready, and they completely just crapped the bed. I mean, they were awful. Now I will say that the last 2 matches, last night and the last match before that, officiating has been terrible, awful. Last night was egregious almost. It was, I couldn't believe it. I think his name is Ortega. He was brutal last night. There's a litany of things. The Tyler Adams yellow card, where I mean he was literally the one that got stepped on. I don't know if you saw
Yeah,
that
I did
replay.
see that.
I can't show the replays, and if you're listening on the radio, go check it out later. But there was the yellow card that was handed to the U.S. men's team, and they immediately played the fastball, quick ball. And you're not supposed to – legal regulation, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have a complete reset on the field. They almost scored off of that. Lots of different just really bad calls. There was a opportunity for us to get possession back. We had an advantage on a handball that was then called back after we made it halfway down the field with the ball. Just really, really poor officiating. And then I think the most egregious thing, or maybe not the most egregious thing, the thing that stung the most was the U.S. men's goal that they gave up to Uruguay. I thought it was offsides. It's by a foot maybe. When you look at it in real time, you can see, like, if you didn't know when he hit the ball, because of course we have terrible camera angles there at the game yesterday, you would have thought that the guy was offsides. After what felt like 5 minutes of time of them reviewing this, they end up giving the goal to Uruguay, and I still can't. It's literally, I guess, by like a foot, but it was just egregious in real time when you don't get to like see it over and over and over and over again, like they were. They got to do something better with that moving forward. I mean, it was just.
Don't they have the thing though?
Yeah, well, they have the
thing.
VAR.
Yeah, the thing.
They knew exactly what I meant.
What's the thing?
So
Jay?
They're gonna have to explain it.
They have VAR. They didn't
VAR.
show. They
That's the
didn't
thing.
show. They don't show where the lines are when they're like when you're looking at the replay. They don't show that on the broadcast where they're making.
Cool, but the
those
people that made
lines.
the call have that.
Yeah, but it's.
So that's the issue. That's why everyone thinks that it was definitely offsides, because no one knows what they were talking about. So when they're showing it on the broadcast, it looks objectively wrong.
This seems like arguing balls and strikes after ABS is put in.
Basically, which is
Basically.
why they're doing the challenge system there.
Right.
But
So
let's-
if they have a software that tells you 100% whether it's offsides or not, how do you argue?
But they didn't show it.
Yeah, they didn't show.
But the
they don't
review
show what
has
they're
that, no? Like the people reviewing it have that. The fans just didn't see it.
Yes,
correct. But
they didn't show it.
even they can put the lines in wrong. Like they
Yeah.
could.
The lines can be put in wrong.
Yeah, they can line it up incorrectly.
Then that seems like the worst software of all time. If
It
it can just
doesn't-
be wrong.
Doesn't seem like if you imply
They put it where they assume the guy hit the ball. Like, so first they got to figure out when the guy actually hits the ball, right? That's a major part of this. You can make an argument that a couple frames more and the guy is clearly offsides, but maybe it's like barely coming off his head, right? Or you go another couple frames back and it's about to hit his head and the guy's on sides. It's that split of a decision there when it's going that fast. And so when they put these lines in, it makes it look like the guy, at least from the stuff that I've seen on Twitter, it looks like the guy is offsides.
Yes.
But that's not what they said on the review. And after all the things that had already happened leading up to that point, the egregious calls, the missed calls, letting Uruguay have advantage when they shouldn't have advantage, things like that. It was just like the cherry on top that all of that culminated into that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, all of this could have been avoided if they didn't lose to Panama. So I think that's where
what I said.
That's the big part.
that's why all of this happened yesterday. But you can still be frustrated about the officiating. It felt like the officials had no control over the game, but it was a total blunder.
All right, well, we'll get back into more of that coming up here in just a bit. It's Off the Bench here at Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and again, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. We're going to talk a little college basketball when we come back. How about this? Between Division I and Division II, there are 3,055 players currently still in the transfer portal. Of those committed, 1,775 transfers. That's 58%, which is wild because that means that as of right now, all these players that have entered the portal, they've entered the portal in hopes of being able to pursue, well, greener pastures, right? Like they feel like they're going to leave to go to a better situation, whether it be more money, whether it be more playing time, what have you. And that's not necessarily the case. 41.9% of transfer portal entries are still uncommitted as we sit here in early July. So we're going to talk a little transfer portal dilemmas, the change in the college basketball, college athletics landscape, a little Cincinnati Bearcat basketball as well. We got a ton to get into. A guy that I've known for quite some time and respect and really am excited to talk with. We got ESPN's Mark Adams. He's going to join us next right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. All right, we welcome you back, Justin Kinner. We got Jimmy, we got Casey, we got Elliot, we got Jacob. We're live here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and, of course, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton, Ohio. Let's talk a little college basketball. Yes, it's the month of July, but we can still talk a little college basketball, right? Again, there's so much going on in the world of college athletics. I was excited to bring on a good friend of the show. Of course, we have ESPN's Mark Adams giving us some time. Mark, it has been a while, my friend. Welcome. How are you?
Justin, I'm doing great. I'm really impressed. I remember when you had no friends. Now your entire studio is, well, maybe not friends, but they put up with you, right?
Well, I have one friend named Trace, and he pays these guys to be my friend. So, I mean, it's a trickle-down effect, but friends nonetheless, right? Are we friends, guys?
Yeah. Best friends.
Let's take
Best
a poll.
friends.
Poll. Jacob.
Yay.
All right. Elliot.
Pro.
Casey.
Yay.
And Jimmy.
Yay.
All right, we got 4 thumbs up. And Mark, thumbs up. We got a thumb. Are you a friend? Yeah, 2
I'm a
thumbs
friend.
up.
I'm a
There
friend
we go.
for sure.
But no, we appreciate you taking time and jumping on the show with us, of course. And, one thing I've talked about with various guests, too, is like college basketball. Usually when the season ends in March, that's about it. You'll have your coaching changes, and then it kind of stops. But with the transfer portal and with the NIL effect and everything, it just seems like college basketball is being talked about so much deeper into the calendar year than any other time in history. I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Do you believe that to be the case? And obviously, I think we know the reason. The reason is the portal. So many players who are still uncommitted after entering the transfer portal. Of course, the Dan Hurley news that dominated, of course, almost taking that Lakers job. It's been a wild offseason for college basketball.
Well, and it'll continue that way for a long, long time. I mean, I predicted probably 20 years ago that this was going to take place, that the haves were going to have a significant financial advantage over everybody else, and it would change the entire landscape. And here we are today. It has done exactly that. But, for my job as an analyst, I've done nothing. I mean, I can't even prepare right now for the season because you mentioned the 3,500 players that are still in the transfer portal. You divide that by 13, there's 350 teams, some crazy number of legitimate rosters that are still out there, hundreds of rosters of college basketball teams that are still out there right now. So it's very, very difficult to predict who's going to be good, who isn't. I mean, right now there's a lot of buzz about Arkansas and John Calipari, and of course, he's going to bring players. I can't tell you how many Kentucky fans have come up to me and asked me, how's Mark Pope going to do? Because I know Mark. I actually recruited Mark out of high school in Seattle, Washington, when I was at Washington State. Didn't get him. Of course, he went to Washington and then transferred to Kentucky. But I've had so many people ask me about him and how he's going to do at Kentucky, and my answer has been simple. It depends on how much Kentucky is going to spend to buy players. If Kentucky spends millions and millions of dollars, then they'll have great players because Mark Pope can coach, period, end of story. But it's all matters to who's going to make that investment over the course of time. And I'm not talking about this year only. I think there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences when it comes to paying players at this rate, that how many boosters are going to continue to pony up every year to keep their college team in the hunt for a national championship. The reality is, Justin, every game that I do now, all 5 starters for both teams make more money than I'm making as a broadcaster at ESPN. That's reality.
Me too. I'm not making more money than you, but they're definitely making more money than me. I promise you that much. Let me ask you this, because I've talked with various ADs and, at bigger schools, smaller schools, and the interesting thing, the dilemmas that they're running into now is trying to find the balance of partnering with collectives, knowing the importance of the collectives, but also knowing that, hey, we can't give all of our booster information to them at the expense of them taking dollars in revenue from our athletics departments, trying to find that balance. The thing that's wild is I'm starting to notice with some smaller schools where the collectives are starting to want to have more say and control of these smaller schools who are vulnerable, who don't have all the resources to compete with the bigger schools. With you being a former coach, how do you feel you would have been able to handle working with your athletics department and then also knowing that the importance of the collective, which is obviously going to be the lifeblood of these teams moving forward, unfortunately, how do you balance that? Your thoughts on that, and have you heard just some, I guess, horror stories as far as how that's kind of working poorly for some of these teams?
Yeah, if nothing else, Justin, you know that I'm brutally honest about things, and frankly, I wouldn't coach at that level in today's game. Look, I'm a happy baseball coach, a college baseball coach at Miami University Middletown in a non-scholarship situation. And I love that role. And I feel like we can make a huge difference where our goals are 100% graduation. We're old school. We want to win the USCA. That's our national organization, national tournament, and then build better fathers, sons, husbands, brothers, teammates. But the way it is in Division I today, you no longer build a program. You build a team one step at a time. But to get back to your question as to what I would do, number one, I would have a general manager. I would have a general manager that really runs the personnel side and the operations of the program. My job as head coach would be to coach the team, but I would still be involved certainly in player decisions. But I would want someone on point. Villanova has done, many teams have done this, by the way. And this was an early idea that many in the profession had, including myself, that you have to cede that responsibility off to someone else that's constantly following the movements of players, and even before they move. I'll give you a great story. Bradley is playing at Cincinnati in the NIT, and I had that game. And Brian Wardle, who I've known for many years, pulled me aside and said, "Mark, I am scared to death." I said, "Look, Cincinnati's good, but you got a shot." He goes, "No, I'm not scared about that." He goes, "Look at all my guys walk into this arena. And the fact of the matter is, every guy that comes in here and plays well is going to be targeted by Cincinnati." Now, think about what Cincinnati did at Utah Valley last year. When they got the big kid out of Utah Valley. Think about this year, the shooting guard from Bradley. Names are escaping me right now. I'm in July mode, so I'm not quite there yet. But, the best shooter, best guard from Bradley transfers to Cincinnati a few weeks after Brian Wardle gave me a heads up that was probably going to happen. So, these programs now are so the teams that have money, because it all comes down to money. It's like what I said about Mark Pope. It depends on who's going to spend. And then you also have the dynamics of the advancement people, the political aspects of the advancement people on a campus who are there to raise money, and then an outside entity that's raising money to buy players for the basketball, football team, whoever it might be, right? How do you manage that? I think that's a nightmare for every athletic director right now, especially at the big money, at the big spending levels of college basketball and football. And so it is a quagmire right now. There aren't many rules that really dictate how you go about your business. And I don't think there are going to be many coherent rules to go about that. So it comes down to one thing. Who can convince their boosters year by year by year, decade by decade by decade, to outspend everybody else to bring the talent necessary to win a national championship? I would never want to coach under those circumstances. Never. In fact, here's the other part of it, another layer of it that I don't think people have even considered. Watch as college basketball coaches' salaries go down. They're going to go down. It's just that simple. Because would you rather invest in a great coach, or would you rather invest in getting damn great players? I know what I would do. I know that, look, I'm a pretty good coach, but I know I'm a better coach when I got Jimmys and Joes. It's not about X's and O's. It's about Jimmys and Joes. And so I would expect that over the course of time, that as these coaches retire, we've already seen that where Jay Wright leaves Villanova. Well, I can tell you right now that after Jay Wright, next coach is making less. And that's going to happen across the board as these iconic coaches leave. There's going to be less dollars for college coaches because it's got to go to the players. That's going to be another dynamic as we move forward. And I think that young coaches coming through the profession again, look, I came through because I wanted guys to graduate. I wanted to have that small college experience. I'm still a small college guy. You and I have actually talked about this. I am a non-fit in this environment. I could never survive in this environment. And I can tell you there are many guys my age and maybe a little bit younger that are realizing that as well. And that's why guys are getting out, and we'll see more guys getting out over the next 3 to 4 years.
Mark, a lot of people thought that with the NIL and, of course, the transfer portal, like combining to create this huge monster, basically, that this would bury mid-majors and bury some of the smaller schools. Although it has created new problems for them to battle, it's also kind of, I don't want to say leveled the playing field by any means, but it's also provided them some opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have had years ago. What are some of the, are there some positives that you see some of the smaller schools being able to take advantage of because of the opportunities that present themselves with NIL and, of course, the transfer portal? We talk so much about the negatives. Are there positives that you see helping some of these smaller schools? Maybe even like what we saw with Oakland being able to go on that run in the tournament. We see those mid-majors do that every year. But is there a little bit more parity in college basketball than what there used to be, in your opinion?
No, I don't think there's any positives. In fact, the only positive I think is that if at the do more with less level, a lot of people call it mid-major, I call it do more with less, because those are the schools that are doing more with less money. And Greg Campy, obviously, one of those poster children this year with what he did with Oakland. But I don't see any positives here unless, and again, I've said this for the last 10 years. I was in a meeting with Conference USA, athletic directors, presidents, and coaches. And they asked me this was 5-6 years ago now, when I was working on some scheduling things and doing some consulting with Conference USA in the Sun Belt at that time, and came up with some pretty innovative ideas as to how they could improve their metrics overall during the RPI time, and that changed over now, obviously recently to the net. But I was asked in a meeting, in fact, it was Tim Floyd, former head coach at UTEP, coaching the NBA with the Chicago Bulls. He's been all over the place, Iowa State. And he asked me, Mark, he goes, if you were in our position right now, knowing what you know about the money situation at the highest levels of college athletics and where we're at today, what would you do? And I paused and I said, there's going to be some people in this room that don't like or appreciate my answer, but I would secede from the union. And I mean, there was a hush that came over the room. But I said, let me explain why. Because one of two things is going to happen. Either all those teams with all the resources are going to tell you what you're going to do, and they are going to exclude you from their club. It's going to happen. One way or another, it's going to happen. I would rather control my own destiny and secede from the union and start my own national tournament, sell it my own way, have real student athletes. And I think that message on that day in front of college presidents, athletic directors, Division I basketball coaches resonates more now than it even did that day. I don't think there's one thing that the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and what once upon a time was the Pac-10, Pac-12, and now it's pretty much Washington State, the Pac-2, and Oregon State, the Pac-2. But those other four conferences, they don't give a rat's ass about the Horizon League. They don't give a damn about the Missouri Valley Conference. They care about one thing and one thing only, the almighty dollar. And all the decisions they're making right now is to exclude people, not include. They are looking for a divide. They are looking for a political solution to do it. And it's moving down that path, as we know, either by legislation from Congress or the do-nothing NCAA, who turns their head away and completely ignores the majority of the membership that they have because they don't give a damn about Wright State. They don't give a damn about Dayton. They care about Cincinnati now because Cincinnati is in the Big 12 and Xavier because they're in the Big East. But I'm telling you, Justin, I said this years ago. If I was in charge of the do more with less level of college basketball, I would have seceded from the union, because then, at least then, I would have controlled the destiny. We would have controlled our own destiny versus a bunch of money-grubbing, absolutely worshiping the almighty dollar people to determine my fate. I never liked being in that position, and I don't like seeing it now.
Speaking of Cincinnati, you mentioned, hi there, Mark. I'm Elliot. I'm one of Justin Kinner's best friends in life.
Hi, Elliot.
I wanted to move on to the Bearcats, if that's okay. I have a couple Bearcats questions. I'm a big UC fan. And by the way, actually, before I do that, so what you're telling me, when they change the Big 12 to the All-State 12 and the Big 10 goes to the Geico 10 and they start changing everything, you're telling me they're all about money?
You really are Justin's friend. You're becoming my best friend, too.
On to UC. I think a lot of UC fans, I think the realistic expectation was they were going to do much worse than they actually did. I think they were 7-11 in conference play, 22-15 overall. And granted, they had one of the easiest non-conference schedules I've ever seen in my entire life. But I think they played well. A couple key performers last year didn't show up down the stretch, and that was the difference. Simas Lukosius obviously did show up, and he was pretty much the hero in the NIT. But moving on, Wes Miller has been here for a couple seasons now, 3 years. This is the fourth year, and it seems like to me it's go time. He's done an admirable job in the portal. He's gotten Dylan Mitchell, Connor Hickman from Bradley. Bradley, thank you very much for your donation. And we'll take Connor Hickman. I think he's done a decent job, but at the end of the day, he hasn't won anything. UC hasn't made the tournament in quite some time. Is this a make it or break it year for Wes Miller?
Well, I certainly think it's an important one. I'm a UC alum, by the way, and I consider Wes to be a good friend. I really like him a lot and admire him. I think he's built that program the right way, brick by brick. What's really, I think, interesting about Cincinnati, when you look at Bandango, Lukosius, Day Thomas is getting healthy right now, Jizzle James, their ability to retain their talent is the key to their success. You mentioned the additions that are coming in, which I think are formidable. But I also think that their ability to retain their talent, again, I coach college baseball. Okay, now I know I was a college basketball coach for a lot of years. I coach college baseball now. And one of the greatest things I can tell you about our team, which had the best season in 25 years at Miami University Middletown, by the way. We knocked off the number one team in the country with the youngest roster in the country, if I get that plug in right now, is that all of our guys are coming back. Think about that. Justin, you just mentioned the transfer portal. And the reason I bring that up is, one, because I wanted to talk about my team a little bit. But number two is that Wes Miller has found a recipe for retention. And while everyone's talking about the transfer portal, the most important part of being successful in the portal is only adding a few pieces while you return your best pieces. And I think that's the chess match that coaches are having a difficult time in balancing, because we're seeing entire rosters leave places. Whereas at Cincinnati, Wes Miller is retaining a large majority. In fact, I'll even argue he's retained every player he wanted to retain. Read between the lines there, Elliot, if you want to. All right? But I'm around that program some, and I believe that they retained every single player that they wanted to retain. And so is it a big for Wes? But you know what? It's a big year for Mark Pope. The way this thing is set up now, where you are paying players, we will see less rope for coaches. We're not going to see more. It's going to become more and more of what have you done for me this year, and can you build a roster? Can you be an NBA GM to build a roster? And I think Cincinnati's done a really good job of that, and I do expect them to have an NCAA tournament year this year.
I have one more UC question. And by the way, shout out to Victor Locken, our good friend. I don't know if Wes wanted him back. But moving on, Jizzle James and Day Thomas. There was a big argument towards the end of last season. Who should be the starting point guard? Who's going to be that number one guy? I think in the NIT, to no fault of Day Thomas, he got hurt, and everybody knows that. But Jizzle shined. Jizzle was a star. He played like the star that this fan base thought he could be. Do you see him being the starting point guard this season for the Bearcats?
I see those two guys playing together more and more. We saw that later in the season, and they became a dynamic duo together. And I watched that as an analyst in their games late in the season, where those two guys melded together and they figured out how to share the ball, how to play together, how to build off each other's talents, how to defend together too. So I think that Wes Miller has a really good problem, and solving that problem, look, you got to figure out who can play together. And Day Thomas and Jizzle James, they are two proven commodities that they've shown that they can play together, and they can be dynamic that way. I mean, Cincinnati is a lot better team in attack mode, and those two guards are attack players. There's two kinds of coaches, whoa and go, and Wes Miller's a go. And when you got two roadrunner guards, beep, 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 going up and down the floor together, where they can lead the break, they can finish on the break in a dynamic way. And the best point guards, the best guards, period, are the guys that never have to make a pass to make a basket. And in a 94-foot situation, when you got Day-Day and Jizzle James, you got two guys that never have to make a pass to make a basket. And that is value add for Cincinnati.
All right, ESPN's Mark Adams. Awesome enough to give us some time here on Off the Bench. And I want to send you out with this, Mark. And I did have planned for you to give you the floor to promote your team, and we'll do that again coming up here in a second, I promise you. But I want to ask you about Doug Gottlieb. Obviously, I work with the Horizon League, and I thought that was a very unique hire. When his name was floated out for the Green Bay job, I know it was floated out when Sundance Wicks got the Green Bay job last year, and his name was being thrown out then. And obviously, I don't think anyone truly anticipated him to take it, but he did take it this time. And looks like one of the agreements or an opportunity for him to take this was by allowing him to keep his national sports talk show with Fox Sports Ohio, or with Fox Sports in general. I'm sorry. Your thoughts on that being a former Division I coach? Every coach I've talked to said they understand, big name, it's a good get for Green Bay, but at the expense of what? Many coaches just don't understand how he's going to be able to host a full-time national sports talk show and run a Division I college basketball program. It's just not adding up. Are you surprised that Green Bay gave the green? You talked about beep beep and the green light and all that. Are you surprised that they gave him the green light to go through with this hire with Doug Gottlieb?
Yeah, Justin, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think I got the gist of your question on Doug Gottlieb. Look, I think it's an interesting hire. First of all, let me start this way. Doug used to do what I do. Okay. And there's two ways you can do this job, maybe more than two, but I believe there's kind of two ways you can do this job. One is first guess. Okay. So I try to prepare. So when I get in a game situation, I'm going to say what I believe the coach should do before he does it. Okay. And then if the coach does something different, then I can discuss the pros and cons as to why I felt this way and why he's doing what he does. I'm a first guesser because I prepare my tail off for a game and try to anticipate what a coach is thinking to inform the viewer as to why they might be thinking this, okay? Whereas Doug was more of a second guesser. I think that's fair to say. Now, that doesn't mean that Doug didn't have some really good opinions prior to a situation. But Doug was highly critical of coaches and decisions made during games, even though he had not coached at that level. He had coached generally at the AAU level. So I can tell you this, that within the profession, by the way, I like Doug. I respect him. I think he does a great job on his radio show. But I can tell you this, that in the coaching profession, I don't think there are many that are rooting for him to succeed. That's my gut. And then when you look at hosting your own radio show and being a basketball coach, I could not do that. I could not do that. I mean, look, on the baseball side of things, I make next to nothing doing this. And I still broadcast for ESPN. But our season, we have a fall season, and I'm working with our guys through summer. We have a fall season. We take some time off at November through February. Does that sound like a season where I might be working? And then I come back in March and we get ready for our spring season because our national organization allows that. And so I could see a path where I could broadcast for ESPN and coach my baseball team. But to host a radio show and coach a Division I basketball team and be fully invested in what you're doing for your players on a daily basis, I think the radio show would be a total distraction for me, and I could not do it. And as an athletic director, I wouldn't allow it. I hope it works out for Doug. I don't wish anybody to be unsuccessful. And I think he does a wonderful job with his radio show. I think he's got a big, big heart and a good guy. But I think he's going to struggle with the balancing act of Division I basketball and also a national radio show. I don't think it's a recipe for success, but I hope Doug proves me wrong.
All right, ESPN's Mark Adams. Mark, last thing on the way out, NCAA tournament expansion. Is it happening, and how soon will it happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen. I think it'll happen within the next year. Again, I think it's going to be money driven. And I also think that the organization is trying to figure out a way to appease some levels of the do more with less levels of college basketball, the more competitive conferences. But I also think that in time, there will be a large swath of what is now Division I in basketball that will simply go away to a Division II or 1AA or whatever the college football thing is now. I can't stand football, by the way. I think it's ruined about damn near everything. And I think that there'll be a large swath of programs that simply go away from the Division I level.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It has been a while, and I couldn't wait to bring you on the show here today. Obviously, keeping busy with the baseball side of thing over in Middletown, of course, and it's cool to see you back into the coaching ranks as well. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Justin. Congratulations on having so many new friends.
Best that money can buy. Take care. All right, good stuff. ESPN's Mark Adams, awesome enough to give us some time. And we're going to step away for a few moments, take our little radio break. We'll be right back. Reaction to that conversation. We'll also have Jay Morrison coming up around the corner as well to talk some Bengals. More Off the Bench coming up next. Want to do the reads?
Yep.
Now, good time
let's
to
do
the
some
reads?
ad reads. Yeah.
Let's do some ad reads.
Let's fix that real quick. All right. So Encore Technologies, they provide IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
that's right, Jimbo. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. Are we doing game time?
Yes.
Right?
Do game time every day.
Oh, yeah.
Every day.
Because you can buy tickets at a low price with no fees every single day.
That's the
correct.
rumor.
That's
the
correct.
rumor.
I went to Kenny Chesney on Saturday. I used Game Time. Phenomenal.
What code you use?
I used OTB.
That's good.
Yeah, so there's plenty of events going on right at the moment. There's a Dragons game later tonight for $5. You can go get some tickets there. Tigers games this weekend. All of them are reduced prices. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Riverbend on the 5th as well, if you don't want to do that. Charlotte FC tickets are on sale as well. And, of course, the Bengals tickets and many, many more. Check out the Game Time map. Lowest prices guaranteed. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right. And some other housekeeping notes. If you haven't done so already, we'd appreciate a thumbs up. If you can hit that like button, helps us out in the algorithm quite a bit. Helps our show grow, helps us reach out to more and more of you guys in the chat, and grow our little community. We'd appreciate that. I think for members, we're going to do something tomorrow for Quiplash for Wednesday. So be looking out for that. And I believe, Kenner, you have some stuff right for members today.
Yes.
To talk about. You want to pitch that right now, or do you want to wait?
Let's do that now. We'll do that now, actually. So what we have is a family 4-pack of Reds tickets. All right. So all you in this, we'll do a drawing for this, but in case he's going to be keeping an eye on this for all new members. So starting right now, what do we got? It's like 11 o'clock right now. So we're going to be keeping an eye on who the newest members are. So as you become a new member, all the people that become a new member for the next hour for the rest of the show will be put into a drawing to get a family 4-pack of Reds tickets. And there's plenty of home games coming up, and we'll be able to allow you to pick the date and to pick the game and take the family to Great American Ballpark. And I tell you what, if you have a family that's bigger than 4, maybe maybe I can throw in a couple extra ones. Unless you're like you're a big old Catholic family, I can't afford to get the tickets for everybody. But within reason. Yes, become a new member, not just a subscriber, a new member of Chatterbox Sports today. You'll be entered into a drawing to get a family 4-pack, maybe 6-pack of Reds tickets here today.
Nice old 6-pack.
Not
like
7.
That.
Then you have to start picking your favorite children. Then it gets weird. So there you go. But become a new member of Chatterbox Sports on YouTube today.
Yeah, and you can do so. I'll put a link in the description here in just a moment, but you can do so on our homepage. If you just go to Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, there should be a little membership tab for you to click on. I'll put the link in there in the description for anyone that wants to become a member. We have a $10 membership, which pretty much gets you access to everything on our platform, gets you the little emojis. You get all the membership videos. There's a $25 membership, which I believe will get you a discount code if you reach out to one of us on our merch store. One-time use, I believe, for that. That's $25. That's a liter of men. And then there's the...
you could always fire Reed.
Yeah, which... It looks like he's already
Someone
fired,
already subscribed.
So someone already hit that membership button already. So you're a little late on that one. But yeah, if you want to become a member, enter in that giveaway. I'll get the link in there. But if not, just go to our homepage and you can do it there.
A lot of active members upset that they're not going to be involved in this giveaway, but we're going to have something for them coming up soon. This is just for new members, but something for you guys is going to be coming up soon.
We have a good
Yeah,
partnership.
so Fetters, you can still rob us dry here coming up soon. Don't worry about it.
But we will have a separate one that we'll announce. We'll do that. We'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
So tomorrow we'll
Sounds
take
good.
care of all the current members. Today, all new members. Again, so go subscribe today. Become a new member, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win a family 4-pack of Reds tickets. The Reds have 3 at the Yankees right now, so have a couple days before they return home coming up this weekend. And if you want to go this weekend or sometime next week, any of the home games between now and the All-Star break, we'll take care of you.
Yeah, and so that means all the new members get to kind of double dip because they'll get this one and they'll get tomorrow.
Then they'll be members
So-
for the next time.
Yeah. So
there you go.
There you go.
Always looking for the positive in things. Not like Elliott. Reds, 10-game win streak. Yeah, but they look like crap in all 10 games. Like, maybe not.
What do you want me to? Let me be honest. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say positive about the Reds, and I'll say it.
That's a good question.
Over the last 30 years, what do I have to be positive about?
Talk about
and then I'll be positive.
You're always so negative. Like,
Well, it's
you're
just-
not like me, where I'm positive about everything. I love Joey Votto. Love the Reds. It is what it is.
I just like to think I'm a little bit more realistic. I mean, what have the Castellinis done to give me any hope or praise, or what? I'll tell you what. You tell me what to do, and I'll do it.
No. You're not as negative as what I'm portraying. However, based on that though, right there, the Castellinis aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So if that's the case, when people just say, well, the ownership, they've never given me anything to be excited about.
Which is true.
You're not wrong. But at that point, you've backed yourself into a corner because then when something good happens, like last year, all the people that hated the Castellinis, all of a sudden, the Castellinis were great in June of 23?
That was a crawling.
Like Mike
not a
Brown,
Castellini.
like Mike Brown, all of a sudden he was a horrible owner, and
I
now
think
Joe Burrow comes.
I think it's a little bit different because I think what happened was the Castellini hate just got quiet, and the fans got louder, focusing on Nick Krall, as Jacob just said. I don't think it ever went away. I think it subsided for a time. I think as this season continues to unravel, that'll ramp right back up.
All right, well, let's come back. We'll pick this up on let's do the rate. We'll come back with this on radio because we do have, let's come back with radio, and then we'll pick this up. All right, good? So we're going to do the countdown? And we are back. Chatterbox Sports here on YouTube. It's Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jimmy, Casey, Elliott, and Jacob. We are off and rolling here on a Tuesday. Shout out to Mark Adams. What you guys think? Have you guys ever had Mark on? Have you guys crossed paths with Mark?
He was awesome. He was incredible.
I was rocking with Mark until he decided football is the worst sport in the history of the world. Now I have to hate Mark.
Y'all Bama folk over there, you don't crap on our football, man, I tell you. But, so Mark started out doing a lot of, he was known for all his mid-major basketball coverage. So he was referred to as the Dick Vitale of mid-major basketball. And you could see why. That passion and just that enthusiasm, that excitement. But Mark's awesome. He's from Dayton too, so our paths have crossed quite a lot. He's called a lot of conference championships on ESPN for the Horizon, the conference that I work with, but also with the American Conference. So he did a lot of UC stuff, and then now working with the Big 12 and just basically a lot of different conference championship games, this, that, and the other. But very passionate. He does a thing on social media called "Do More with Less."
Yeah.
So every time there's like an upset, you heard him refer to the "Do More with Less." Every time there's like an upset, like if Wright State, let's say Wright State plays Kentucky in game 1 of the regular season. Let's just say.
Hypothetically.
Just say. If they upset Kentucky, he'll always do that "Do More with Less" report.
Yeah.
And he'll put the budgets of the schools and all that, and the big schools always love that.
I like that.
They always love that. But so during the break, our commercial break, Elliot got a little testy because I called out his negativeness. Is that a word?
Negativity.
Yeah,
Negativity.
negativity.
Thank
I think
you,
that
Jimmy.
would be a good one, Jim. That's Notre Dame education right there. But yeah, I think that people confuse like negativity and a little bit being like realistic as to what has happened as of the past several decades. I think there's a little bit of that in there. I think there's no knock on being the overly positive fan. I think sometimes it gets tiresome on my Twitter feed as the Reds are continually under 500, fighting for the wild card, fighting, and then they eventually lose the fight, and then it's like, what were we happy for? But I also get that why would you want to spend your life any more negative than you have to be? And let's just cheer on the Reds and hope they're good. You have Ellie De La Cruz. You have Hunter Green. There's so much good to talk about. Why are we focusing on the negative? And I just think when it's a fan base that's as hungry as the Cincinnati Reds fan base has been, I think eventually you're just going to get beat down by the negativity. And I've been beat down. There's no doubt about it. I have been beat down, beat around. I've been kicked in the dirt.
And that's just from Jimmy.
That's just from Jimmy yesterday. But yeah, it's just one of those things where there's a constant war on Reds Twitter versus of the overly positive versus the mainly negative, and it's realistic type folk, and it's okay. I do side more with the negative side because that's what I've known. That's what I've seen. There's nothing to be positive about for me until, quote, Billy Beane, you win the last game of the season. And I don't know if I'll ever see that in my lifetime.
Yeah, the Reds have just been so bad for so long, and I've realized that the more excited I get about every Reds series, the more it hurts when they win the first game and lose the next two. So I've just decided to stop getting up for series. And it's just more to protect myself than to be out on the Reds.
So what we see all the time, though, is so during the break, Elliot had referenced, the Castellinis. What have the Castellinis done in my lifetime to buy in, to this team? And the Castellinis have let fans down for many, many years. There is no doubt about it. You'll never hear me argue otherwise. However, what I always, with that mindset, if everything is just based on the ownership is not going to change. So or not anytime soon, unfortunately. So if that is the case, then you're always just going to be upset, even when they do well. So I said, okay, well, back in June of 23, when they were 18-8 and they were the hottest thing in baseball and they were one of the best stories in baseball, the story wasn't when Castellini's Reds are doing well. It's just the Reds are doing well. We only focus on ownership when things aren't going well. And we learned that with the Brown family and the Bengals. Bad ownership, it's viewed like that across the NFL, whether Bengals fans want to admit that or not. He is not a respected owner around football. However, now that they have Joe Burrow, now all of a sudden the Bengals look like a great organization. It's like they always say, winning cures all. The Reds they haven't found the cure yet.
No,
I think the only way the Castellinis can get out from the negative light that the fans have on them is if they hit on a couple big signings. I think hitting on prospects and stuff like that, you give the credit to the manager, you give the credit to the players, you give the credit to the farm system, the GM. If the Castellinis don't hit on a couple major signings, it's never going to change the fan opinion of them.
Yep.
And maybe Candelario's that signing. Maybe that's the first one that can start that.
Maybe,
that
but
role.
You're going to need obviously a couple more,
for sure.
And even then, it would be a moot point unless they win a World Series. Which again, it's hard for me truly to imagine them winning a World Series in my lifetime.
Can you imagine though what this damn city would be like?
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
What Hamilton would be like? No, what Cincinnati? Well, I can't imagine what this city would be like. As far as that's concerned, we felt the buzz and the energy in Dayton when the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. I can't imagine what it would be like If the Reds actually made it to a World Series and hosted multiple World Series games, this city would just be absolutely insane as far as that's concerned. But Reds-Yankees coming up later on tonight, 7:05 the first pitch. Graham Ashcraft on the mound. And I've said, so you don't think they get a win at all? I say they take 2 or 3. I like their
2 or 3 is outrageous. I think they win one. They win one game.
They'll win tonight.
But
They
tonight's
might win
not.
tonight.
They'll win tonight.
So what game then? What game are they winning?
I would say they would win tomorrow is the best chance they have.
I agree.
With Andrew Abbott on the mound.
Yeah, Abbott versus Rodon.
Tomorrow.
Rodon is one of the highest ERAs of any starting pitcher in the league. So
Okay.
that's definitely the best chance. But I'm not. I mean, we really betting on the Reds right now?
I will put my
You
money
guys
where
bet
my
on
mouth
them
Kinner,
like
they've-
every game anyways.
Kinner,
Only the games
we
still-
can say they're holding on. They've lost 15 of 19 series. So it's just like win one game, win one game, win one game, and then by the time the season ends, you have 72 wins. So it's
Well,
this is you were right when you led this is a great first step heading into the most important stretch of the season by far. I don't know if they're going to take advantage of it.
2 of 3, baby. And
That'd
it
be
starts
great.
tonight.
2 or 3 would
And
be
I will put
phenomenal.
my money where my mouth is. I will go to my gaming app, no free ads, of course, and I will put $25 hairs on the Reds to win this series against the Yankees.
I bet they score 15 runs this series and they get swept.
That's the spirit. That's that. That's that positivity that we were talking about just a little bit ago. But all right, we're going to talk a little Bengals football coming up here around the corner. It's Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We put out on the Chatterbox. We put out a poll on Chatterbox on X about the biggest rivalry in the AFC North. This is July Sports Talk, baby. The biggest rivalry in the AFC North. And quickly, before we get to Jay Morrison coming up around the corner, the biggest rivalry in the AFC North is what to you, Jay?
I think it's Steelers-Ravens. I would love to put the Bengals up there right now. I think Bengals-Ravens is probably the marquee matchup currently, but Steelers-Ravens in the history, that's my answer.
All right, Elliot, what we got? The biggest AFC North rivalry today.
I think I'm still gonna go Bengals Steelers. I'm still going Bengals Steelers, but I get the sentiment with all the other ones. Bengals Steelers for me in my lifetime has been the most. It's been the most I would say physical that I've seen. And I don't know too much about the Ravens Steelers rivalry, but I know obviously that's a big one as well. I just know for me in my lifetime it's been Bengals Steelers all the way.
So for you, but like, do you think that that's the case? Like that's the perception around the division.
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay, Casey.
Personally, I think it's Steelers-Ravens. I think those games are much closer in terms of what's been done in the past. Back in like the 2010s, Bengals used to kind of dominate the Ravens a little bit, early 2010s, and they wouldn't do anything against the Steelers. The Ravens-Steelers matchup has always been a good one. It's always been tight. It's always been a close game. And it's always been, like, old-school football, like tough, just ground and pound type of game. So for me, it's the Steelers-Ravens. I have the answer to the poll after Jimmy
the break.
answers this
Okay.
as well, though.
Jimmy, what you got?
I voted for Steelers-Ravens just because I know that's one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL. I'd say right now you could definitely make the case, like Jacob said, for the Bengals-Ravens just because they're the 2 best teams in the division.
They are.
Yes.
They're the 2. You mean that team that finished last year? That
Won 2 of the last 3 AFC North championships.
second worst defense in the NFL last year. Second worst run game.
Didn't matter when we won 2 of the last 3 AFC North championships.
Oh man, you sound like a Michigan fan right now, and I know as a Buckeye fan that living in the past, just saying. No, let's talk about
the Browns have won the division.
Stop.
Though, right?
We got to go to break, dude.
They've
Clock
won the
management.
division, though, right?
We'll come right back off the bench. 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Let's chat with Jay Morrison from Pro Football Network. We'll be right back. And we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and of course on 1410 ESPN Radio. For our audience on YouTube, take a look there, our Twitter poll, which is the biggest rivalry in the AFC North, and the results are what, Casey? And I see that you cheated and you used the off the bench, Twitter thing to click on the Bengals and Steelers, or is that just the winner of the results?
No, that's the winner.
Oh, okay, you didn't cheat. My bad.
By what percentage, Casey? Do we know?
Yeah,
Was
the percentage was 35.9%.
35.
Second was Steelers versus Ravens at 27.2.
One that was not on the poll that I think we should probably just at least mention is Browns-Ravens, because the Ravens did steal that organization from Cleveland. I think nationally.
And then go on to win multiple Super Bowls.
I think nationally Browns-Ravens is probably up there as well. But for the poll's sake, only 4 spots on Twitter. We are a Cincinnati sports show. Had to throw the Bengals ones on there.
You just had to. And it had to. And a skewed result. Fake news.
That's what we're known for.
This is fake ballot boxes, all this stuff going on.
There you go, Kenner.
But no, with that,
there it is.
We're just going all in, aren't we?
All right, let's get to it. Let's bring on our next guest. Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, covers your Cincinnati Bengals. And Jay, help us out. Again, the biggest rivalry in the AFC North, perception-wise, whether it be yours or just what you think the perception is, because every time an AFC North matchup happens, it just feels big. It just feels big time. There's a lot of rivalries within the division, a lot of rivalries in every division. But overall, your thoughts, the biggest rivalry in the AFC North is what?
Yeah, for me, it's Steelers-Ravens still. I mean, they've got more titles, division titles and Super Bowl titles than any. The Bengals and Browns don't have. The Browns don't even have a division title. Neither team's won a Super Bowl title, and it's just it feels like that Bengals-Steelers rivalry kind of. I don't want to say it fell apart, but it lightened considerably when Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and Vontaze Burfict and those characters that made it so spicy. When they moved on, and as soon as they left, the Bengals got terrible, and then the Bengals refound themselves, and the Steelers weren't really much competition for a couple years, and so I don't know that one. It feels like Ravens Steelers is different every time they play. I don't know if they've met in the postseason. I think maybe that's what keeps the Bengals one alive with the Steelers is there are 2 postseason games there, but there's just a nastiness and a physicality no matter what the team's records are, and they usually are good when it's Steelers-Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Steelers-Ravens, 2 teams, have a Super Bowl history. Obviously, that's what separates them from the 2 Ohio teams. Obviously, the Bengals have put themselves in that Super Bowl conversation, getting to one recently as far as that's concerned. But the Steelers-Bengals, when that gets brought up, I remember years ago when I was just starting, I was doing a show with Keith Byers, and him and we had Jerome Bettis on. And, of course, I set it up. I'm like, oh, it's Bengals-Steelers, big rivalry game coming up. And he started laughing. And I said, what's funny? And he goes, no one looks at the Bengals and Steelers as a rivalry matchup outside of Cincinnati. He said he did love playing the Bengals, though. He said his Hall of Fame career, he has to thank the Bengals because he had more rushing yards against them than any other team out there. But I did find that pretty funny for obvious reasons, Jay, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I'm sure. And really, you think about it, look what the Steelers did to the Bengals in Cincinnati. They dominated Marvin Lewis in that era in Cincinnati, and they always talk about that. To be a good rivalry, it has to be kind of even, and it was not even. The Steelers, the nastiness was there, but the Steelers, when you look at the win-loss column, the Steelers owned that rivalry.
Jay, sticking with this too, because the one thing I've really wanted to, as a Browns fan living amongst all these Bengals fans around here, I really cannot wait for that time that the Bengals-Browns do cross paths in a postseason matchup, because we're talking about all the rivalry, the perception of rivalries within the AFC North right now. Does that have the potential, if the Browns ever get on a consistent level enough to compete with the Bengals and the Ravens, at that high level right now, does that have the potential to be the biggest rivalry in the AFC North, especially because they're both in the same state, obviously, and competing for a common goal, getting to a Super Bowl? There's a lot of potential there, but the Browns have to hold up their end of the bargain because the Bengals have definitely done it, especially in the Joe Burrow era.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in college, it was a nasty rivalry. Both teams were good in the mid to late 80s, and I think it could get back to that if the Browns can get some sustained success and make some multiple playoff appearances in a row. And, he mentioned too, the history between the Ravens and the Browns. There's history with the Bengals and Browns with Art Modell firing Paul Brown and him coming to Cincinnati and starting this franchise. And I know that probably goes beyond a lot of the current fans may not even realize that history is there, the younger fans, but it is still there. And I do think this rivalry can get back to it. And you still kind of see it, just the whole, as you mentioned, the in-state thing, the Battle of Ohio thing. There's an intensity when the Browns come to Cincinnati, and it's fun looking down from the press box and watching around and trying to see where the fights are going to break out, because inevitably they do.
Hi, Jay. It's Jacob here. I was just wondering, you said the Steelers-Bengals rivalry has obviously taken a hit over the last couple of years since the Steelers have been much worse. Do you think the additions of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is going to put them back in some relevance in the AFC North? Or do you expect them to take a step this year or kind of regress?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how this division is going to play out. Any one of these four teams could win the division. They could all go 3-3 against each other. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath like it was last year. And first time since 1935 the division had every team over 500. I don't know if we're going to see that again. But I mean, if Pittsburgh can figure out the quarterback part of it, they're right. It's kind of like them in Cleveland. They have good rosters. They just have these questions at the most important spot. I don't know if Russell Wilson is washed. We'll see how he fits into that scheme, but the Justin Fields thing would make it really interesting with the Ohio State ties. And I have a hard time. I guess you have to lean towards the Ravens as the defending champs and make them the favorite. But I would not be surprised to see any one of these four teams win this division, including the Steelers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Shifting gears to the Bengals roster and their additions this year. Obviously, Joe Mixon's left. He's on the Texans now, bringing in Zach Moss, expecting Chase Brown to get some more carries in the backfield. Do you think that backfield's going to take a step back from what Mixon has given in terms of reliability and production, or do you think those two are going to be able to match those numbers pretty equally?
Yeah, I don't think production's going to be an issue at all. Reliability, I mean, Joe Mixon never fumbled. That's right. Asking a lot. We'll see. Zach Moss doesn't have a history of it. Chase Brown doesn't have a history, period, just being a rookie last year and barely playing. But they're never going to be a run-first team. The production-wise, the volume is going to be about the same as what we saw with Joe Mixon. But what they're looking for is more explosion. And if the play looked like it should get 4 or 5 yards, Mixon got 4 or 5 yards. They want Chase Brown and Zach Moss to be able to break a tackle and get into the second level and turn those 4 and 5 yard gains into 12, 15, 20. You've got to do that when defenses are sitting back and daring you to run the ball, and they're just trying to take away the deep game, the deep passing game of Joe Burrow. So that's what the Zach Moss thing was going out and getting a guy that he doesn't have burner speed, but he just has this knack of falling forward and getting an extra 3 or 4 yards every time contact is made, and he does have a lot of explosion, and we saw Chase Brown has ridiculous explosion, and I think he's going to be a big part of the passing game too, not just screens, but putting him in the slot, having him run actual routes out of the backfield. So I think this run game is going to take a step forward, is more likely than seeing it take a step back after losing Joe Mixon.
I totally agree, and I obviously hope you're right. Speaking of adding explosiveness to the team, Tyler Boyd, obviously a great piece for the Bengals over the last however many years, but he's moved on to Tennessee. The Bengals take Jermaine Burton in the 3rd round, seemingly going to slide into that 3rd wide receiver role. How do you expect him to be used in the offense?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you could see him being the slot guy, or you could see him being outside some more because, they signed Mike Gesicki in free agency, and he's a tight end. But he lines up in the slot 50% of the time, and I don't think that's going to change here in Cincinnati. So, and then I think we're going to see Jamar Chase lining up all over the place. That's already kind of been a work in progress, but I think it's going to go to another level this year where you're going to see him in the slot a lot, see him in the backfield, make the defenses really have to think and react how they want to guard this guy. But Jermaine Burton, I mean, he's been really fun to watch. And I know OTAs and minicamp, it is what it is. There's hardly any competitive periods, but just watching that guy, he just glides across the field, and he's got burner speed to get deep, and his body control when passes aren't 100% accurate, just the way he goes up, he doesn't catch the ball, he snatches it. It is a violent grab when he goes and gets that ball. So I think he's got a chance to maybe be, I don't know, I'm not going to say offensive rookie of the year because there's a lot of offense to spread around with Chase and Higgins, but he could be one of the steals of the draft because he's a 1st round talent, and getting him in the 3rd round. And yeah, there's questions about maturity and coachability and all that, but sometimes these guys, they get in this situation, and this is a no nonsense locker room. They're built on culture, and Joe Burrow's not going to suffer fools, and that receiver room, Troy Walters, the receivers coach, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they're not going to put up with any shenanigans. So I think this is a perfect fit for Jermaine Burton, and I think he's going to be a really big part of this offense this year.
We have Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, with us here again off the bench and Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Jay, what started out as a noisy offseason for the Bengals with all the stuff with Hendrickson and then obviously T. Higgins and what his future was going to be like, and then obviously the progression of the rehab for Joe Burrow heading into this upcoming season. A lot of optimism about the progression to Joe Burrow's health. Obviously, Hendrickson, they seem to kind of mull that over a little bit, and then T. Higgins signs that tender, and now all of a sudden it's like it's a quiet July, which is a good thing. You don't want a noisy team in the offseason. What started out noisy has definitely kind of quieted down. Is that the sense that you're getting as well? I mean, kind of what's the vibe of the Bengals offseason right now as some of the big storylines coming out of last season seem to be non-stories as we sit here in July?
You're right. It's been very quiet and very appreciated for the beat writers who don't have to worry about, well, am I going to write my story from my car this week? I did that with the T. Higgins thing. I was at Home Depot when that happened, so I had to go out and write the T. Higgins signs the franchise tag from my car in the Home Depot parking lot on my phone. But it's what you want. Getting T done early was huge. I think it sends a massive message to the team and to the fan base that he's going to report on time and he's going to be all in this year and he's not going to be a problem. I never thought he would be, but I still kind of thought that he might follow the Jesse Bates template and sit out as long as possible, come back maybe after the second preseason game and then just get some practices in and be ready for the opener. This is huge. I mean, Burrow missed so much of camp last year with the calf, the year before with the appendectomy, the COVID year. They have not had all these guys together for a full training camp. And if they can avoid injury early in camp, I think you're going to see that have legs, and you're not going to have to worry about those 0-2 starts and digging out of a hole like they've had to do the last few years. The Higgins thing, the Hendricks thing was just kind of he just wanted people to know that he's underpaid. I don't think there was ever a real threat there for him to retire, for him to he asked for a trade and T. Higgins requested a trade, but they know no one makes Mike Brown blink. It's just posturing and kind of negotiating tactics. I think both those guys, Hendrickson and Higgins, are going to play their butts off this year and try to earn themselves some more money. Hendrickson still has a year left with the Bengals, but I think this is going to be the last ride for T. Higgins. The big question here is Burrow. I mean, he looked great early in the offseason. He was zipping the ball, great velocity. The accuracy was there that we've become accustomed to. And then it kind of dialed back, and he wasn't even throwing the ball at full speed in minicamp. And he talked about just trying to be smart with it and not force through anything like he did with the calf. Don't know if it's the wrist is bothering him, or if he is just being smart and seeing that the break was coming and he just kind of throttled down. And we'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see how he looks early in camp because, like I said, they haven't had all these guys together for a full camp. They need Joe Burrow out there throwing the ball the way he's capable of.
Jay, everyone was anticipating and waiting for Justin Jefferson to get his deal done in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And then everyone said, well, once that's done, all eyes and attention will shift towards Jamar Chase. Well, there's a receiver in the middle now that's been caught in it, and that's CD Lamb over in Dallas, who's threatening not even to report to camp unless he gets a deal done. We went from Jamar Chase keeping an eye on Justin Jefferson. Now I'm sure he's keeping an eye on what's going on with CD Lamb. Obviously, part of the Bengals being so good and drafting so many young, talented players over the years is now they got to pony up and get these guys taken care of. They've had to make tough decisions. They've obviously made that one with T. Higgins. But in essence, knowing that they have to take care of Jamar Chase, how do you anticipate the progression of this negotiation going? Is there a chance that this can get a little dicey? Do you see this being a smooth negotiation? Where do you see any potential hiccups, if there are any, as far as getting Jamar Chase taken care of? As now that some of those other storylines are in the past, now we shift our attention towards that negotiation, which will be big, building around the future of this team.
Yeah, they're going to get Jamar done. It's just a matter of when. I guess the hiccup would be what the guaranteed money is. I don't know that he's going to get $110 million guaranteed like Justin Jefferson, but I could see him leapfrogging Justin Jefferson in terms of average value per year, $35 million. Maybe the Bengals go $35.1 million for Jamar so he can say, I am the highest paid. I don't think CeeDee Lamb's a factor in this. I think he's going to get paid. I don't know how his situation is going to work out, but I don't think he's going to get Jamar. He's going to come close to topping Justin Jefferson. I can't get those guys straight. So the thing is, Jamar is in no hurry. The Bengals are in no hurry. The Bengals have Jamar on the final year of his rookie deal this year, and they've already locked in the 5th-year option for 2025. So I think most likely you're going to see this get done next summer. Get past free agency, get past the draft, and really kind of dive in. I don't think they want to wait to get to the other side of that 5th-year option. They could always franchise tag him after that, but he's too important of a piece. They want him and Burrow together for the duration of their careers, and they're going to figure out a way to get it done. There'll be some give and take. It's not going to be an easy negotiation, but it does feel like a rubber stamp that at some point Jamar Chase is going to sign, and maybe it's just 3 years, and then he gets another bite at the big contract 3 years down the road. I don't know that you're going to see him go 4 or 5 that high, but at some point in 2025, we're going to be writing and talking about a Jamar Chase extension.
All right, well, good stuff. Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, awesome enough to give us some time. Send us out with this. One big thing that everyone's keeping an eye on right now is this battle between the NFL, of course, and the lawsuit involving the Sunday ticket. Right now, it looks like every NFL team will reportedly be required potentially to pay $449 million each to cover the $14 billion cost of the Sunday ticket lawsuit. I'm not well-versed on all the details of that, and maybe you're not either, but from what you know, what could that mean for the Cincinnati Bengals, all teams, but obviously from a Cincinnati Bengals perspective, how could that impact them?
Huge, I would imagine. I mean, they were so against naming rights, and then they put naming rights on the stadium because they know and naming rights on the practice facility because they had to get Joe Burrow's guaranteed money in escrow. It's just not a team that they don't make their money elsewhere. The ownership, the family, it's all football, and they don't have piles, millions laying around like that, like Jerry Jones and some of these other owners. So that'd be a massive hit to have to turn over $440 million in cash for a settlement. I know it's not done. I know there's going to be appeals. The NFL rarely loses. This could just be, it's news right now, but we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, it wouldn't be good for a lot of teams. I imagine probably 20 of the teams it would be a major issue to have to come up with that kind of money. And then maybe the NFL loans it to them. I don't know how that would work. I'm not super well versed on this, and I've never owned the Sunday ticket because there's no sense. I can only watch one game. It is fun on bye weeks, Thursday night game, Monday night games, to find somebody that's got the ticket, watch all the games. But I've never dipped into those waters, but love to see the subscribers sticking it to the NFL and getting what they deserve, because the NFL has been undefeated too long in any kind of lawsuit, any kind of just money above everything else. Screw the fans. So it's good to see them getting their comeuppance a little bit.
All right, good stuff. Jay, you the man. I appreciate your time, sir, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Jay Morrison, Pro Football Network, awesome enough to give us some time. More of Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, right here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. We'll be right back. All right, good stuff. We welcome you back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jimmy Casey, Elliot, and Jacob. Getting a lot faster with that. There we go.
Elliot could never do that.
I could never do it.
He could never do that.
I could never do it. Not all. Usually I try to do it like 4 times a show, and I couldn't do it.
Well, I panicked because I almost called him Colin yesterday.
Yeah.
And I forgot his name at one point.
You could but you could have survived that.
If you called him Colin, we wouldn't have even
Colin, I'd be like, Collins, yeah. But no, I did. I panicked, so I said Jimmy Collins. Just try to mush it together. Really
I forgot
quickly.
Jacob's name outright 5 times.
Oh, minimum. Yeah.
Tissot. Well, we go back.
We go way back.
We have
do
a
you know we
history.
used to do a show together?
We have a history.
Really? Yeah. What was it called?
Long time ago, called Grip It and Rip It.
Yeah. Golf show.
Grip It and Rip It.
That's what the
Grip It and Rip It with Tissot and Kinner, right?
Yeah, because yeah.
I think you.
Oh,
I think you mixed it up.
I see it.
Because it rhymes.
Because it rhymed.
Of course.
Which was the whole premise of the show.
Yeah. No, that's big brain over here. Thought it all up.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss on steroids. So, hey, by the way, this has been all over the place today with the guests. Shout out to Mark Adams. Shout out to Jay Morrison. Appreciate their time. Timing-wise, Casey, what are we looking at? And it's okay if you don't have that math, if the math ain't math, and I'm sure it's not math. And Mark,
I'm sure we don't have a lot of time left in this segment.
We can't.
I am 100% positive this is going to be a 2 minutes,
and that's
3 minutes.
Because when he sends it over, it'll get edited down, so we're good. So we'll make this quick, just around the room. Biggest takeaway from Jay Morrison's conversation, because the one thing that I thought was most interesting, it was a loud as hell off season to start. But now I'm sitting here in July as we start, as this show's been around for years, but as I start this show, I'm like, oh, there's plenty of Bengals to talk about. I'm like, but there's actually not. There's actually not, which is probably a good thing for a team. Like, the louder the team is, like, that's not a good thing, especially with camp around the corner. But right now, what's the biggest takeaway that you took from many of the conversation points that we just had with Jay Morrison?
So my biggest question was the one I asked him about Jermaine Burton. I'm really interested to see how he's going to be used in the offense this year, and his answer was exactly what I was hoping for, and that's moving Jamar Chase more into the slot, using Jermaine Burton on the outside, using Andre Yoshivas on the outside, and giving Jamar Chase more opportunities in the slot. That's what we saw with Justin Jefferson last year, that really opened up his route tree, really let him get the ball in his hands more and make it work. We all know how special Jamar Chase is. As soon as he makes the catch, he can make guys miss. That play against Kansas City where he scores a 60-yard slant. So getting him better matchups and using him in the slot is the best thing I heard.
Yeah, I think mine was similar to that. It's just that you have to give more opportunities to Jamar Chase. Similarly, what we saw a little bit when the quarterback, help me, the backup quarterback.
Browning.
I'll never remember Jake Browning's name. God bless him, the snake. Similarly, when the snake took over, you saw a little bit of like a different side of Jamar Chase. I'd like to see that again, and I think you can with the use of a guy like Burton.
Casey?
One of the things that I took away, another Burton one, was how he described the kid. Yeah. He glided on the field. I love that. One of the questions I would have asked him was that like his biggest like shocker of OTAs, or not shocker, his biggest like player that could succeed, the guy that stuck out the most during this whole process. Sounded like it because the dude just glided on the field. When you hear stuff like that, it makes you feel like he's going to be a really good football
There's
player.
a lot of eyes on Burton too, because theoretically, a seamless transition. I mean, they lose T, and it sounds like they are. That like they made the decision to not get anything for him. Probably. I mean, I know they could tag him again theoretically, right? But I mean, Jay just basically made it sound like, okay, there's no chance. But I think what you'll really see him leave is if Burton just kills it this year, and that's your number 2. And then for them to and bailed out, that's not what I mean. But like they would be bailed out in that situation to lose T, and then just a seamless transition into a super talented receiver in Burton. That'd be huge.
Some rumors on Twitter that Burton might be changing his number to 3 before the season starts. So
really?
Hold off on those 81 jerseys, and those Rookie of the Year odds should cut in half.
Will hold off on hitting, check out.
I had one in my card. I
will slow down. I will slow my roll.
I think there's a lot of expectations to it. We haven't had we haven't had a guy like Burton come up in a long time. When I say a long time, I mean a couple years. Because Yoshi and Charlie respectfully didn't move the needle, I don't think, for many of the fan base, and to have this guy become a large part of this offense, I think everybody's ready for it.
Jimmy, what was your takeaway?
I was just going to say that I think that the Bengals seem to be pretty comfortable with having Jermaine Burton now instead of Devontae Walker.
Oh yeah, I think they're fine with that. One thing real quick that I will say, more than anything else, I don't believe Jay, and I don't believe you, and I don't believe any single person out there. You are all delusional as hell if you think that this Jamar Chase negotiation is going to go smooth. I will put money on. I have no doubt in my mind that there will be some kind of drama. It is not.
Are you the leaks to Schefter? Have you been the leaks this entire time? I think it was you. I think it's been you. What's given you the shock? Where is it that Jamar Chase isn't going to have like an easy negotiation?
Difference between do I think he's worth it and will he get it? Yes, he's worth it. He should be. He will be the highest paid receiver in football. I see the Garrison comment there. I'll get to that in a minute. But it's definitely worth it. But keeping an eye on this ticket situation with the Sunday ticket and that money that's looming over there, and then just to all of a sudden have the highest paid quarterback or second highest paid quarterback and the highest paid wide receiver, I just don't. I think it will get done, but I don't think it's going to get done pretty. And when you guys talk about, well, they could franchise tag him again a second time, you think like players get pissed at that. They don't like that, and he's not. I don't see him being. I mean, he's been quiet. He's been patient, but I don't see him being super patient past next summer. I just feel like right now I have a hard time believing that the Bengals are just easily going to be able to do this without giving up a ton outside of just the dollar amount. It's all going to come down to the guarantees, and that's the thing that I'm keeping an eye on the most. I just have a hard time believing that it's going to be a seamless negotiation. And if it is, I will eat crow and I will say I was wrong. I don't see that being the case. I just don't. Yeah. Not for an ego like Jamar Chase. That's not a bad thing. That's not a shot at him. But these are diva wide receivers. Trust me, they're not negotiating. They're telling you what they want,
Right.
and they're going to get it, or they'll leave.
Yeah, I think the Jamar Chase contract negotiations will be very similar to Justin Jefferson's. And if you want to say those were sloppy, you can say that. But Minnesota, every report they've ever had about that extension was that they're going to get it done, that it would be done before training camp, and that's exactly what happened. The outside media and outside fans just made a big story about it. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Jamar Chase. We're going to hear the Bengals say, no, don't worry, we're going to get it done. Everyone's going to talk about it for a whole year, and then he's going to get it done before training camp happens. It's the same thing that happened with Joe Burrow. Oh, the Bengals aren't going to pay their quarterback $50 million. Then, Herbert gets paid. And then Jalen Hurts gets paid. And everyone's like, oh, this isn't going well. And then Burrow gets paid before anything even gets serious. So that's the same thing that's going to happen with Jamar Chase. Everyone's going to make a big deal out of nothing, then he'll be signed before it matters.
No, Burrow, I never